Welcome to Tita Talks. My name is Sonia Tita Popolo, and I'm your host. It is a great privilege and pleasure to welcome Dr. Luana Marques. Dr. Luana Marques is an associate professor of psychiatry at Harvard Medical School, founder and director of community psychiatry, Pride at Massachusetts General Hospital, and immediate past president of the Anxiety and Depression Association of America. Informed by her personal journey as an immigrant from Brazil with courage and strength, Dr. Luana learned from her own trauma, adversity, and poverty and became a sought-after psychologist. Dr. Luana's own true story powerfully illustrates that her method of improving life's satisfaction works. She coaches individuals to live their best lives by rewiring the way they think, feel, and behave, and is devoted to and passionate about increasing access to scientifically rigorous mental health practices. In fact, she is a master at converting her clinical research findings and evidence-based practices into vibrant insights and practical tools and techniques for individuals, community organizations, C-level leaders, and international corporations. Dr. Luana is frequently cited as one of the leading experts in cognitive behavioral therapies, has been featured in publications such as the New York Times, CNN, Harvard Business Review, and has been a frequent guest on television broadcasts such as Good Morning America, as well as a variety of podcasts, including 10% Happier. In her latest book, Bold Move, a 3-step plan to transform anxiety into power, she provides a narrative that offers a set of science-based skills for a more joyful and fulfilling life. Her book is action-oriented and seasoned by thousands of hours of professional clinical practice. And today, we're talking about the healing power of resilience, a self-care tool for you, and Bold Move, a 3-step plan to transform anxiety into power. Welcome to Tita Talks, Luana.
Thank you so much for having me. It's such an honor to be here with you today. I'm so inspired by what you do and your journey and your story, so it's a privilege to be here.
Oh, I'm so excited to have you on today, Luana. Luana, you are empowered by psychology and your personal life experience as a renowned mental health expert, educator, and author, passionate about teaching people to transform their lives. You believe real-time positive change is possible for every person when they have the right skills and habits. What is the most important sign that one needs to be aware of that communicates, okay, it's time to transform my life? What skill does one need to make that transformation happen?
So the first thing we need to think about when we're thinking about it's time for change is really a sense of being stuck. Most people I work with, they come to me and they say, life is just not progressing. I feel like there's an anchor holding me down, and I'm no longer living in life with my values. I'm no longer thriving. And that comes in ways like you're not sleeping well, you're eating a little too much, your relationships have a lot more conflict than you desire, or you hate your job. Right? Regardless of the scenario, there's a sense of like, I'm anchored too heavy and I can't go on the journey of my life. And so then your question is really important. Like, how do we start that process of transition? How do we go from being stuck to becoming bold? And for me, the first thing is learning a hidden superpower that we all have, which is this idea that we can actually pause our brain. Often, our brain talks to ourselves in ways that we would not talk to our best friends. Like just this morning, I was preparing for this podcast, and my brain's like, am I going to be okay? Is she going to like me? Are people going to like the podcast? And I was like, brain, shut up. Like, I don't want to hear you, right? But we can't stop the narrative. What we can do is learn to pause by learning to separate our thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. I call this the TEB cycle, thoughts, emotions, and behavior cycle. So when
Mm,
you notice that your brain, you're feeling anxious and your brain's spinning,
yes.
literally take a piece of paper and write it down the situation and then link what you're saying to yourself to emotions and behaviors. And this is the trick. Science teaches us that by actually writing, we are activating our thinking brain, which slows down the emotional brain. So we are now creating a pause, which is a superpower before we change.
Mm. What incredible actions, advice. Awesome. Luana, we are currently experiencing the greatest global transformation of our lifetime. This grand transformation permeates the well being of every aspect of humankind. Wellness and self care is at the forefront of this paradigm shift. And with the right wellness and self care tools, we can reset our lives, forge a new pathway forward, and live a happier, healthier, and longer life. Good health is our most prized possession, generating a positive mindset of confidence, enthusiasm, strength, and joyfulness. And that can trigger a life of optimum achievement. Vibrant health doesn't happen by luck or by chance, as we know, and one must take the necessary steps to improve their health and well being. Lorna, tell us about Bold Move, a 3-step plan to transform anxiety into power. What has been the most fulfilling part of authoring your book?
This book really culminates the journey of growing up in Brazil, remembering times that we had nothing to eat, to getting my way into Harvard. And anxiety has been a constant, right? We cannot not have anxiety. And so for me, authoring this book allowed me to examine that journey, understand that although anxiety is there, there's actually a root cause that gets all of us stuck, which is not anxiety. It's what we do when we are anxious. And what we do often is avoidance. All right, you're set to go on a date tonight, and your brain tells you that the person's not going to like you, and you cancel the date.
Yeah,
And you feel a little better in that moment, but now you're stuck not pursuing a relationship that you so much want. And
yeah,
so for me, authoring the book allowed me to cement personal history, clinical work in tools that I'm hoping everyone can use to live this life that you're talking about, Tita. This amazing, fulfilling life where we take responsibility for our brain and we rewire it in real time. We've talked so much about going to the gym and exercising our physical body. What happens to exercising our brain? And that's what I hope this book does for people.
yeah, exactly. I love that. I always say we have to exercise the brain muscle, right?
Yes, yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. Well, why do you think that people always go to those places with their minds? Why do you think that is? Like, they'll be afraid. Is it come from fear? Is that
Well, so the brain is an incredible machine, right? Our
yes,
brain is designed to predict. And it predicts to keep us safe. And so we're walking around and we hear noise. And if we think it's a lion coming, we're going to go for fight, flight, or freeze, right?
yes.
That same mechanism is what we use to predict the emotional part of our lives. And
Mm,
all of us early on creates narratives. Like for me, for example,
yeah.
I had this narrative of I'm not enough. I grew up in a family that was a lot of chaos. And so my brain used that filter to predict. And so every time I would think about, okay, I want to become associate professor at Harvard, my brain used to scream, nope, not enough. And it's an interesting mechanism because it does so to bring down what's known
Yeah.
as cognitive dissonance. A
Mm,
fancy word just to say the brain doesn't like when two things don't match. And the
yes.
reason it doesn't is because it takes a lot of energy. So
Mm,
once we have that predictive system, we keep using it again and again.
yeah.
And that's what gets us stuck actually, because we just confirm our fears instead of learning to overcome them.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's probably why when people meditate, the meditation helps because when you meditate, you're slowing down, you're just with your thoughts, you're observing, you're becoming an observer of where your mind's going.
A
Mm,
100%. I mean, we know all the data that meditation cools off the brain, right? Allows you, and you detach from those thoughts. You're no longer those thoughts, which is so
mm,
powerful.
mm. Luana, mental health issues are widespread in every community, in every country, in every continent. According to the World Health Organization, the world is in the midst of a mental health crisis, with depression as a leading cause of disability globally. The current world population is over 8 billion people, of which almost 600 million people suffer from depression and anxiety disorders combined. And if you count any mental health disorder, that number is almost 800 million people. More than 30% of adults in America experience mental health issues. The global economy loses about $1 trillion per year in productivity due to depression and anxiety. As the immediate past president of the Anxiety and Depression Association of America, can you please tell us how can we ameliorate this growing problem?
Those numbers, every time I hear them, and I hear them often, and I think about them in my work, they sadden me so much because it really gives the magnitude of this infection
Mm,
globally. So I think we need strategies at different level. Let's start at the individual level. All of us have
yeah,
the potential and the ability, no matter who you are, no matter what class you are, doesn't matter what wealth or poverty you're under, you have the potential of learning basic skills to really help you regulate your brain and emotions. And so at the individual level, we have the power of some level of prevention.
mm,
At the public health level, right? We need a paradigm shift. In the US, let's use your global, I'm going to use the US actually because that's the data I know the best. But in the US, about 20% of the US population needs mental health care.
yeah.
Only 0.17% of the population is trained to deliver it.
Wow.
If you put those numbers together, there is no way that supply and demand will match. And so we
Mm,
need to start to think about skills, not therapy. We need to get out of the ivory tower in the streets and we need to train paraprofessionals. We need to use what's called task shifting. And I've done research on this. I have data that can prove that we can change the mental health of those that need the most by empowering the people that work with them to
yeah,
learn the skills.
yeah.
And that to me is a paradigm shift that we need to do globally if we're going to bring this temperature down.
Mm, absolutely. Incredible, incredible. Tell us about your online course at Harvard University called Building Personal Resilience, Managing Anxiety and Mental Health. People can audit it online and earn a certificate. Why is it so imperative to empower people and teach them the skills and tools to become more resilient, manage anxiety and mental health? I mean, this is basically what you're saying. I mean, if they can develop these skills, they can these numbers can go down, but
Yeah, no,
basically improve their well-being. So,
absolutely. So
yeah,
I created this course with Harvard edX, and we did it together in collaboration because they did some research in their global communities.
yeah,
And edX really focused at a global population, not just our local. And what they saw is that people are really suffering with a lot more anxiety and depression, as you talked about. But the number one request is this idea like, how do I build resilience? How do I do it day to day? And
mm,
so we partnered together on this course. It's going to be launching the end of June. You can either audit it for free or you can get a certificate. And the course really, it has some of the same skills that the book does. It has two extra skills. So there's a bonus on the course. So if you go to the course, you're going to learn a little more, but it's applied. So we designed it so that if you are sitting in rural Africa or in Brazil or in the US,
yeah,
you can still think about things like one of the skills we talk about is charging up. It turns out that we have to spend energy to get energy. And when we're feeling anxious, we want to do nothing. And so I teach 3 steps: why to do it, how to do it, what to do it to jumpstart your battery. And so we're proud of the course because at the individual level, it's empowering people to change their own brain to become their own therapist, which is why I'm here with you and so privileged to be here with you.
now, thank you. Thank you for saying that. Luana, do you find this to be daunting or rewarding?
To record the course,
Yeah, to have that sort of responsibility to bring these teachings to people, to sort of take
is that,
that on.
yeah, it's a great question. Both. There's this part of my life now where I am at that I'm so energized by being in podcasts and talking to people and bringing skills.
Yes.
There's this part of me that is so terrified, about the message, about being respectful to people, by ensuring that the mission is aligned, that I don't forget about the populations I care the most. And so most of the time I feel extremely bold and then extremely anxious and I'm just gonna go for it. But it's a bit of both. It's a bit of both.
Yes. Do you believe that the skills such as empathy, compassion, kindness, and understanding can help to heal humanity and manage anxiety and mental health?
Absolutely. Yesterday I was talking to a friend who is about to get married, and all these people love her. She's stuck. And she was lacking compassion and self love. And
Oh,
without that, it doesn't matter how much I love her, her fiance loves her. And so I think at the core of it, this idea of loving yourself, bringing compassion, kindness, those are pillar values that with them we can build stronger brains, stronger societies, stronger lives.
no, absolutely. I think it's about not only having that compassion for yourself, that social self care, but social self care. So when we have that compassion, empathy for ourselves, then the people around us feel that, right?
100. They feel that. And it's like, whenever I meet with a new organization, I do work with inner city organizations. The
Yeah.
first question I have is, how can I be of service? I'm not there to sell something. I'm there to figure out if there is alignment so I can be of service. Because to me,
Yes.
that's what we are about as human beings.
Yes. Oh, I agree with you 1,000%. Absolutely. Your recent TEDx Emory TED Talk entitled How to Make Anxiety Your Best Friend received 80,000 views, and it was amazing as you discussed the importance of making anxiety your best friend. Can you share an exercise with our audience on how to do this?
Absolutely. So, anxiety turns on our fight, flight, or freeze, basically our evolutionary response to fear.
Yes.
And when our brain senses danger, it is biologically wired to walk away.
Hmm.
When we walk away as modern humans, given that we're not running from lions most of the time, hopefully, what we really do is we avoid. And the more we avoid, the more our brain understands that the only way to survive is to avoid. I gave the example earlier about, avoiding a date, but we avoid asking for a raise. We avoid conflict. We avoid being able to say to somebody, what you did just hurt me, right? And so the opposite of avoidance is approach.
Hmm.
Now, what I mean by approach is not white knuckle and go do it. It's really doing opposite action. So if you are terrified of going on this date, is there a way to do a phone call instead of that date and talk to that person? You don't have to talk about your fear. You can just say, oh, no, tonight is not a good night, but can we do a brief check-in? You
Yeah.
are approaching your anxiety by doing
Yes.
opposite action against the avoidance. So when the
Yes.
avoidance comes and the anxiety says do X, you go, okay, what is the opposite of that? And it
Right.
doesn't actually matter the action. What matters is that you're rewiring your brain to approach, not avoid.
Right. Wow, I love that exercise. That's wonderful. Excellent.
Mhm.
Luana, let's play a game. Reimagining healthcare. I will call out the problem and the correlating solution. Then please, your answer can be true or false. And if you do not agree with the solution, then please share with us what your solution would be based on your method in your book, Bold Move. Okay, so healthcare in 2023. The problem in healthcare is one, cost prohibitive. Solution, wellness and self care provides efficiency, efficacy, and metrics.
100% true.
Problem healthcare is dysfunctional, system at breakpoint. Solution, wellness and self care provides new paradigm, self care, prevention.
True. It's a
Good,
tough
Ilana.
one, though. It's true, but it's a tough one because we need a global paradigm shift,
Yeah.
and that's going to take work. But we need to do it differently, or we'll continue to grow.
Yeah. Yeah. And it has to start with the individual, right? Because
Yes.
you said that earlier. Okay. Problem healthcare is three single variant answers and still very much in silos. Solution, wellness, and self-care provides multivariant approach and a holistic strategy.
True.
Problem healthcare is conventional and reactive. Solution, wellness, and self-care provides innovative, proactive, and engaged self-care.
Amen. So true. Love it. We need to get ahead of it. We can't wait to have an infection to treat. We need to get ahead of it.
So true. So true. Problem healthcare is misinformation, burnout, and people feeling absolutely powerless. Solution, wellness, and self-care can provide. Well, it provides. It's human-centric. And with blended lifelong learning, people can improve their lives.
True.
Anything you want to add to that?
I mean, I think it's an incredible game that makes me think about, how are we going to change the healthcare system?
Yeah.
And I think all of us have to be engaged and think about a community level. How do we come together to do this? Because it is a paradigm shift, and again, a global. So I loved your ideas and your solutions. Let's go do it.
I loved yours too. Yes, let's go do it. Yes, yes. Our philosophy is that true self-care relies on utilizing all. So at an individual level, we start here. Our philosophy is that true self-care relies on utilizing all four pillars of a healthy lifestyle. That's exercise, nutrition, rest healing, and mindfulness meditation. And this is our formula for health, happiness, and longevity. When these four pillars are in alignment, we can achieve harmony and equilibrium. What is your daily wellness routine, and what self-care tools do you use on a daily basis, Luana?
Most of those. So I try to move my body, either physical exercise or walking every day. I actually even have a walking desk. Many years ago, I had hurt my back and realized that sitting all day couldn't work for me anymore. So I'll take meetings walking so that my body's moving.
Wow.
Sleep is so important. Sleep is not, it can be compromised.
Yeah.
But, my wellness routine is living a value-driven life. So every Sunday, one of the things I do and I teach my patients to do is an evaluation of my week. And I put my values, they're important for me. And I look at my week and I want to check if my actions and my meetings and the things I'm giving my energy to are aligned with my values. Because what I know scientifically and personally is that a value-driven life leads to a meaningful and well-rounded life. And so I spend a little time every day ensuring that my actions are aligned with my values. And that to me brings a lot of wellness.
Well, I love that. Have you always been doing that, or did you sort of realize that that's what you have to start doing? Or were you always like that? I've always been a spiritual person, even when I was a little girl. So part of my routine, meditation, spirituality sort of has always been part of my life. And then I feel like things have evolved as I've grown through different chapters. Do you know what I mean?
I do. So I think at a meta level, my life has been very value driven. But this recent hyper focus on values has come in the last 2 years when I had some really challenging situations at work and it was really hurting. And I had to pause and go why am I hurting? One of the things about pain that's so powerful is if we look what's behind pain, we understand the value that's being violated. If this person did acts and I'm hurting, and I realized that in that case, somebody had violated my trust, and trust is a core value. And so I had to then really realign my life and my daily routines with my values and be very aware of them. And so for the last 2 years, it's something I've done pretty much every week because it got me out of that tremendous pain to where I'm now. It allowed me to write this book in a very vulnerable way. And it keeps me healthy. And so it's been a newfound sort of anchor in my life.
Oh, I just love that. I did that for Sonia's Ring 11 Ways to Heal Your Heart. When I wrote the book, I had to look at what were the values that helped me move forward through the grief and through losing my best friend and my mom and so forth. So wonderful people can learn to write their value. It's just so important. It's a good anchor. Absolutely. That's part of it's a good like daily self-care tool as well, I'd say. Because like the whole idea of what I do the values is that you
Hmm.
sort of meditate on each value. And
Hmm.
yeah, excellent. What does the healing power of resilience as self-care tool for you mean to you, Luana?
Me, resilience is such a loaded world in academia right now. People
Yeah.
argue what is resilience.
Yes.
In the course, I actually talk a lot about mental strength because
Yes.
I think we need to be exercising our brains. We need to be engaging with our brains and understanding our brains and another organ, right? And so we need to exercise it. And so for me, the power of resilience is really this idea that life is tough, things will happen,
Mm.
but with the right skills, you're better equipped to handle the curveballs of life. It doesn't mean you're not going to crash and burn like I did 2 years ago. Life is tough,
Yeah.
but you need skills. The same way we learn how to drive, we need to learn how to use our brains.
Uh,
And that to me is resilience.
yeah. Oh, that's amazing. Absolutely. You are an amazing and great inspiration to us. Who inspires you? Who and what inspires you?
In this moment in my life, I'm very much in touch with my 90-year-old grandmother who transformed my life. My grandmother, I moved in with her when I was 15, and I was so terrified. It was a big city, and I was terrified of talking to strangers. And she taught me a lot of the skills that I'm now sharing in the world. And then
Wow.
I got to graduate school, and I'm like, oh, there's a need for this thing that my grandmother, who had no college education, seemed to know. And so I'm inspired by the fact that people can deliver, that the grandmothers can change the world by teaching their grandkids the skills that now I know are science driven. And so
Yeah.
every day I think about how she changed the course of my life and how we can use the mentality, right? There's a great research in Africa about grandmothers teaching therapy to kids. And it's like, I just think she just is my true north in many ways.
It's so beautiful. My grandmother was like that for me too.
Oh,
My mom.
oh,
Science based evidence shows that the more wellness and self care tools and techniques you have, and the more positive daily habits you embrace, then the more you not only learn about yourself, but what works best for you in your life and the better life you will live. It's about empowering yourself with the skills to live a happier, healthier, and harmonious life. I want to share an excerpt from my book, Sonia's Ring 11 Ways to Heal Your Heart. Physical and spiritual well being is necessary for life and growth. It is what helps to keep us alive, maintains and nourishes faith, love, faith, hope, perseverance, compassion, and kindness. All of this is available for you. So reach out and grab what is yours. Is there any particular message that you would like to make sure we communicate and share with our worldwide audience, Luana?
each one of you watching us today, you are already bold. Often, when people hear the title of my book and they look at me, they're like, "You're so bold."
Yeah.
Being bold is not being fearless.
Yeah.
Being bold is pursuing a life where you can show up fully as you in the way you are. You make your own choices, you make your own bold moves, and you
Yeah.
align with your values. And so don't wait to become bold, be bold.
Oh, I love that. You want to read an excerpt from your book? Any part of the book is perfect.
I will actually read just a few lines from the beginning of the book.
Yes, yes, yes. Great.
Okay. Introduction. Am I enough? There is a huge irony in my writing a book about being bold. Perhaps an irony that only I can appreciate. When I told my friends I was writing a book about tools that would allow people to live boldly, they exclaimed excitedly, "This book must be written because it defines you." The irony is that although most of my close friends and colleagues would describe me with capital B, bold, I often have felt, and still do feel, scared, anxious, and vulnerable when faced with significant challenges.
Mm.
As an adult,
Yes.
I know that these fears are partly a product of my childhood in Brazil, where so much of my emotional energy was spent trying to keep my parents together, doing whatever I could to minimize the fighting and the arguments and maintain the illusion that their world, my world, was safe. Yet, I felt as if I had failed big time. My father left us when I was 10 years old, and that was the end of any sense of stability and certainty. In retrospect, my father leaving was a blessing in disguise. But I never met any 10-year-old that gleefully said to herself, "Yep, my parents are divorced, my mom has to work all the time to feed us. And no matter how hard she tries, at times, we end up sharing a single potato for dinner." So, as a young girl, what I actually said to myself was, "I'm not enough."
And what comes up? They have to just buy your book. They have to get your book.
Thank you. I chose to read this part because this part is so vulnerable for me. I just recorded the audiobook, and I had to cry so much to read it because it really is painful still in many ways.
Yeah.
But you can still be bold and have the history I have. And so my hope is that people can be inspired to change their own lives.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us on Tita Talks, Luana. Thank you for discussing the Healing Power Resilience, a self-care tool for you. Thank you for sharing your book, Bold Move, a 3-step plan to transform anxiety into power. For more information, then please go to www.wellnessworldusa.com and www.titatalks.com. Follow us on Instagram at Wellness World USA, at Tita Talks Official, and we love Tita Talks, and at Sonia Tita Popolo. And for more information about Dr. Luana Marques, visit her website at www.drluana.com and follow her on Instagram at Dr. Luana Marques and get her book, Bold Move, a 3-step plan to transform anxiety into power. It will be available May 2023, and it is absolutely a must read.
Thank you so much for having me, Tita. It's such a pleasure. I'm inspired by everything you do. Continue to forge wellness in the world and bring your shining light. It's just I can see it in your face. It's amazing. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.